Lee Dryberg at dryberg.com has asked over the weekend if he can publish the article that I wrote about what you've been saying, and obviously he's also published comments from three pretty high-profile scientists. Dr. Byron Bridle, Canadian viral immunologist, Wittkowski, who you'll know as an epidemiologist, a scientist, a biostatistician, and of course Dr. Mike Yeadon, ex-VP and Chief Scientific Officer for Pfizer. Interestingly, they all agree with you on the problem of lockdowns, and that's quite a big statement for these three to be making, and yourself, that the primary non-pharmaceutical strategy that has been used is flawed. I think we're all aware of around about 30 studies now that show that lockdowns don't work. In certain other areas, particularly in relation to the vaccination driving further mutant variants that are going to create a vicious spiral. Interestingly enough, it is Dr. Bridle, perhaps the most qualified of all three, who's most in agreement. What do you say about the kind of views, critical views and supportive views that you've had so far? Has it changed any of your own viewpoints?
No, it certainly has not changed any of my viewpoints, and it's only because people bring this to my attention that I read these things, because I'm not really proactively searching in the literature for somebody saying I'm wrong or I'm right. But I do think that the major factor of disagreement on the vaccine-induced immune escape, for me, is I really don't understand. I really cannot understand how you can say this. Some people even disagree that immune escape would have been already a result of the initial prevention infection measures. And my only argument, and it will be exactly the same argument or the same, I would say, comment to these people, is please do look at the mutations that are now selected in those variants. And as you know, as we go, the number of infectious variants is just increasing. And as we have seen already end November, when these infectious strains popped up, before even the mass vaccination was implemented, we have seen that these mutations were converging more and more to the domains of the S protein that are responsible for enhanced infectiousness, for binding, for stronger binding to the receptor domain of the susceptible cell. So it cannot be that these mutations were simply at random, because otherwise they would not be converging all to similar domains within the S protein. That is one thing. So along the same lines of reasoning, I would say to these people, but it's not, in order for me to be wrong, proven wrong or right, but look now at what is going to happen with increased mass vaccination. These infectious variants, are they going to increase the selection of their mutations within even a more narrow domain of the spike protein, namely the receptor binding domain, which is in fact the domain that is most targeted by the antibodies that we are inducing through those vaccines? If this is happening, I mean, this is, I would say, the best criterion to really prove that the mutations that are now occurring in those new variants that we see, like, every second week we have new ones, that they are not selected or not chosen at random.
Well, that's exactly the point. That's what drew such interest to me as an ecologist by original training. Looking at the evolutionary argument, I think is